that's how you can achieve really great negotiations. What's in it for them? What's in it for the agent? What's in it for us as buyers?
Okay, everybody, welcome to today's Zooming In with Dave call. My special guest for today is Mr. Alfonso Cuadra, zooming all the way in from Ottawa, Ontario, from his office where he looks like he's brainstorming up a storm there. We're in for a real treat today, you guys, because Alfonso is one sharp cookie. And I've only personally known Alfonso for a couple of years. I met Alfonso through our mutual friend, Ken Beaton. We both know well and who we both done a lot of business with. In fact, Alfonso's done a hell of a lot more business with Ken than I have. I mean, Alfonso and his wife bought Ken and Joanne's property management company. I think he bought a whole bunch of his apartment buildings off of them. So definitely in tight with Ken. And I've really enjoyed getting to know Alfonso over the last couple of years because I kind of feel like in a certain way, he's my Latino brother from another mother. Alfonso, a much younger brother with better hair. But Alfonso has such an amazing backstory. And I'm probably going to miss parts and I'm probably going to get a little bit incomplete, but Alfonso is originally from El Salvador, and he and his mother immigrated to Canada when he was a little kid. And I haven't actually told you this, Alfonso, but I've always admired people from El Salvador. People from El Salvador are amazing. They're famous in Central America because El Salvador is like the smallest country in Central America, but it is the most jam-packed with population and with entrepreneurship. So, I mean, think of a country roughly the size, I think it's about 2/3 or half the size of Vancouver Island, for crying out loud. Physically, it's a very, very small country, but it's got a big population. So it's like the most population dense country in all of Central America. And the people in El Salvador are incredibly entrepreneurial. Now, this is partly by necessity because El Salvador is a developing country and there isn't a big social network. I'll guarantee you this, there's no $2,000 a month going to anybody from the government in El Salvador right now. I'll guarantee you that. And when I was living in Costa Rica, well, first of all, before I even started living in Costa Rica, I spent some time in El Salvador, Alfonso, back when you were probably just a little kid. So it was way back in 1993. I was actually one of the very first tourists to arrive in El Salvador after the Civil War ended. So it was about 6 months after they signed the peace treaty. And I was like one of the first pasty-faced white guys showing up with my little backpack on a bus in El Salvador. I remember how happy people were to see a foreigner in the country again. It was just like I was literally embraced and just, it was amazing. Fast forward a little bit, started working in Costa Rica. And the most successful, the highest level executives in all of the companies that we worked with, most of them came from El Salvador. And that's because culturally, people from El Salvador, they are the hardest workers and they are the most entrepreneurial and they are the ones that just get the job done. So Alfonso's mom came into Canada when he was a little kid, but I think he brought a lot of that entrepreneurial spirit with him. He started very, very young, his first business in high school. I believe there was a time there where you weren't going to school. He became a father very, very young. He had to grow up quick, really, really quickly. And that he did. He went big, he imploded, he got big again, and he stayed big. And he's done a variety of different things. Most of us here are familiar with Alfonso from him being part of Keyspire and being on stages and teaching and training thousands and thousands and thousands of people across the country about real estate investing. He has his own very impressive portfolio. Every time I turn around, he's buying a new building somewhere exotic like Saskatoon. And he's just He's a multiple entrepreneur. He's got businesses in all sorts of different niches. He's an online guy. He's an offline guy. He runs a big team. And one of the things that Alfonso is amazing at is negotiations. And that is the real core of our talk here today. So I've taken way too much time introducing you, Alfonso, but I definitely wanted to let people know a little bit more about you and pump your tires. All right, so welcome. Thank
you. Thank you, Dave. Oh, that was a great intro. I didn't know that you knew that much about me, because we've had this, many different discussions, but I never knew that you've done your research.
Yes, my friend.
I definitely appreciate what you said about people from El Salvador. There's something to be said when you start off with nothing and you have nothing to lose. Like, people, when we come to this country, we came from a war-torn country, and we came here to make something of ourselves, right? We didn't come here to take away from the government or the resources. We came here to add value to the country as a Canadian. And every single year, when I mail out the T4s to all our employees across Canada, I look at what I've done, and it makes me feel good, and to be able to employ people, because Canada made an investment on me and my family to come here, and I think they've gotten a really great return on their investment, because I've come here and built. I've come here and hired people, created jobs. And so there's definitely a return on investment when you invest into immigrants coming to this country, right? The best country in the world, from my point of view. And so, we came here, we're hungry, and, we're still at it. I'm still employing people. I have not had to lay anybody off. We still employ. Everybody is working from home. It's a bit of a different dynamic. I'm in the office here by myself, but everybody's still employed, and we're still moving forward.
Awesome, my friend. Awesome. All right, so our topic today, you guys, is negotiations, and what I'm going to suggest we do, because this is going to be a very organic presentation. We're not throwing slides up on the screen. We're not doing any of that kind of normal stuff. We're having a conversation. And what I'm going to encourage you to do is to participate in the conversation, but we're going to have to do it in an orderly fashion. So if you want to ask a question, perfect. Just please type in the chat box that you've got a question. Then I will find you. I will unmute you, and we will do it that way. Does that sound good? You guys give me a thumbs up if that makes sense. Just because we got to keep things under control. Awesome. All right. So, Alfonso, let's just get started, my friend. Tell me, we know a little bit about your background. Tell me when it first dawned on you how important negotiations were, and what's your first memory of your first big win when it came to a negotiation?
Oh, my first big win was basically when I was 9 years old. My mom was very strict, as you know. We're from El Salvador, and we have a very strict bedtime at 9 years old of 9 p.m. And there was no negotiations in terms of that bedtime with my mom. And as you know, in Central America, around 6 o'clock is pretty much dark, no matter what time of the year, right? But remember, in summertime, 9 p.m., I used to live in Vancouver, it's light out, and I'm going to bed, And so, I broke her down. I'm happy to say that I broke, it was like every day, it was consistent, but I never gave up. And she let me stay up until 9:30. So that was my first win. And that was kind of where I built my confidence. In negotiations, you only really lose when you give up. That's when you lose. And so as long as you're willing to create win-win situations and, put yourself in the other shoes of the person of your prospect or the person you're trying to negotiate with, and see what do they get out of this? How can they win? As long as you never give up, at some point, there's going to be a deal. And that's the point, right? Most people try to go in, low ball at the very beginning, and they pull out all their cards from the very beginning, and never give the relationship enough time to materialize. And sometimes they talk about the art of the deal, but sometimes there's the art within the deal, how you can structure something where everybody wins.
Yeah.
And that's a really great negotiation.
Well, we'll dive into your steps of creating those kind of negotiations, but I always find it's helpful if we get a picture of what's possible. So getting your bedtime extended by half an hour, that's great. But let's apply this to business and or real estate, or the business of real estate. And off the top of your head, Alfonso, what would you point to as the best business or real estate negotiation you've ever done? And walk us through that. Where did it start? What challenges did you have to overcome, and where did it end up? And how was it a win-win for everybody?
Yeah. So, like I said, patience has always been something that they say patience is a virtue, and it's true. Just last year, I closed 2 separate apartment buildings. One was a 36-unit building, and the second one was a 12-unit building, and both of them were done with 90% vendor take back, seller finance deals. Okay. And so now those are the last 2 that I've done this year, but I've done many in the past. I've done a mixture of, of some VTB, assumptions of mortgages. Most of my deals have something creative in them because, I want the deal, but maybe I don't want to exhaust all my resources on that particular deal. Mm. And so I'm always trying to achieve 3 things. How can I do deals all day long with the least amount of my own money, with the least amount of my own effort, for the maximum amount of return possible? And so that's kind of been my model. And so going back to your question, in business, in negotiations, when I started in business, I was able to grow a company from $0 with none of my own money. I got investors at 17 years old, and I grew a company to millions of dollars in revenue with locations all across Canada. It was all done through negotiations because I had no money. And so I had to negotiate my way to success. And, many, many, many times those negotiations are key. Every single deal has to be negotiated, even if it's the right price. But there's something else that can be done.
All right. So age 17, that was only a few years after you negotiated with your mom for the 9:30 bedtime extension. So there you are. You're a punk kid in or recently out of high school. How did you negotiate? How did you get JV partners on board? How did you negotiate that? How did you do that at that age?
Well, here's what I was doing. What I think it happened by default. But I'll tell you, there's only 3 reasons why someone will take your deal, negotiate with you, buy your product or service, sell you their real estate, go out with you, let you stay up half an hour later, marry you, whatever. There's these 3 major reasons. And so in hindsight, I was able to kind of isolate them and figure it out. But I was kind of doing these things by default. So reason number 1 is likability. People should like you. People need to like you. You need to be a likable person. And the only way to really become a likable person, as you know, is to listen. You need to listen twice as much as you speak, right? And so anytime I'm going to enter a negotiation, anytime I'm going to do anything, I am going to listen to find out what are the needs of the other party. What what do they want to establish? What do they want to get out of it? If it's real estate, what's the need of the seller? In those days, I needed to find out the needs of the people that I'm approaching as joint venture partners. What are the needs? And I need to listen to their needs. So my presentation I can customize my presentation to fit their needs. You see, the reason why people don't do enough deals or they're not efficient with their negotiations is because they're thinking about themselves all the time. And a good negotiation, as you know, has to be a win-win situation for everyone. And so if it means, giving up more equity, more shares, if it means, going, like finding out another creative way of, getting the deal to work, maybe it's time, but I'm going to look for the needs. So likability is huge. Transactions are done every single day between people that like and trust each other. Dave, you wouldn't do a deal with someone you dislike unless it's for a ridiculous amount of dollars, right?
And then it's usually a horrendous pain in the ass, and it backfires on you. So
absolutely, right. And you probably went to a store and you wanted to buy something, but you said to yourself, "I'm not going to buy it from that guy." And you literally go to another store out of your way, out of spite, because you just didn't like that person. There's probably a hairstylist or a barber that you go to all the time, because anybody can cut hair, but you go to that same person all the time because you like and trust that person. And through likability, you build trust. And trust is key. And so even in negotiation, you see people are too much in a hurry to do the deal that they forget about likability. Whether you're dealing with a realtor, mortgage broker, the seller, there's always a need. So number one is the likability. Number two is respect. Number two is respect. And respect is earned through your product knowledge, your knowledge in the industry, your experience, and you're going to have to talk the talk, right? And so for me, going back to being, 17 years old, I build that rapport with the people around me. So, I managed to raise, so I started my entire business with $2,700. And if you can imagine this, I'm 17 years old and getting all that money together, $2,700 would probably seem like a lot of money. But to us, it's like, that's like our gas in the last couple of months, right? Well, not these days, but it's not a lot of money, but that's what I started with. And so I had to build likability, but now I had to go and earn the respect that I'm the one to execute on this particular deal. And so, when it comes to real estate and I'm trying to do something, I'm trying to do something that is creative, why wouldn't a seller want to do a fully 100% or 90% seller finance deal with you? Well, number one, if you default on, and we'll probably for some of your viewers we can clarify what a VTB is in just a moment. But this is when the seller is offering to finance you on their deal. Why wouldn't they want to do that? Well, what if you default and now they have to go through the headache of getting back their property, foreclosing on you, and lawyers and all that? That just seems like a lot of pain. And so human beings make decisions based on two things, either to gain pleasure or avoid pain. And so if you've done enough research during your likability period, if you've listened to what their pains are and what their pleasures are, then there shouldn't be any problem when it comes to showing earning that respect, showing that, you're someone that is completely capable of this. You can run this operation and you are the buyer. So respect is earned. And then number three, logic and reason. People forget about logic and reason. This is something that, when in negotiations, sometimes people aren't logical. Every deal that I've done, I've been able to back it up with numbers, logic and reason. They can love you. They can like you and they can love you. They can respect you. But if what you're offering doesn't make any sense, there might not be a deal there. And so you kind of need those three things and you need to work around these three reasons why anybody would do business with you in order to get the best deal possible for all parties involved. It's not about, lowballing people. There's a strategy into getting the price. And as long as it's a win-win situation for everyone, there will be a deal.
I love it. So your 3 points, again, the whole likability factor, the whole earning their respect. So I'm part of the likability is showing respect to the other person.
Oh, right? Absolutely.
And then earning their respect for you as a professional that's going to do what you say you're going to do, and then tying in logic and reason. But I love the fact that your first two really aren't about logic and reason, because bottom line, like you said, if they don't like you, if they don't respect you, they're not going to do business with you anyhow. So you can be as
exactly.
logical. And I think that's another mistake a lot of analytical people make, is they march in with the logic and the reason, but they don't focus on the likability and respect up front. Would you agree?
First mistake that amateur investors make is to talk bad about the property. I see it all the time, right? And so the way the way I try to describe it to people, Dave, is like, imagine you have a beautiful baby, and it's your baby, but it just so happens that your baby, it's an ugly baby, but you love your baby regardless of how ugly this baby is.
Sounds like my mother's experience.
But no matter, regardless of how ugly your baby is, you will not appreciate someone coming around and pointing out on how ugly your baby is. And so there's no way you would ever give your baby, sell your baby, or whatever it is to someone that does not appreciate your baby the way you appreciate it, no matter how ugly your baby is. And so, I always start with, I love this deal. Like, I love everything about this deal. You've done a really great job, right? I want to build that rapport and likability. And I've been in negotiations where I'm buying the property for less, even though the seller already got other offers for more. And the reason is I'm really good at building that rapport, that trust, that likability factor, and just earning that respect, because you know what? I'm not going to talk bad about the seller. I won't talk bad about the property. In fact, I love the property. I love everything about it. Because think about it. If your go-to move is to talk bad about the property, which I know why people do it, because if they're inexperienced, that's the only way they'll be able to justify a price reduction. And so if you're experienced, you justify a price reduction with the numbers. Everything else is everything else is irrelevant. Now, why would they take your deal? Well, you build that likability in that respect. And if you're showing up talking bad about the property, saying this is this property is disgusting, it's going to take me all this money to fix, and the seller didn't do a good job, how are you going to feel as a seller? Do you want to even do business with these people?
No.
And so that is the number one mistake that an amateur investor will make, is talk bad about the property. Versus me, I go in and I talk about all the good things about the property.
Interesting. So that kind of flies in the face of that. A lot of us, when we're thinking about negotiations, we think of somebody like Donnie Trump back in the days before he was the president, right? When he was just a real estate guy. And he seems like he was just a hard-nosed, take it or leave it kind of negotiator kind of guy who would probably talk a lot of trash about your property. And that we seem to think that's the way it should be. And you're basically saying it's the exact opposite.
It is the exact opposite. And if you go back and study Donald Trump, he actually used these strategies, right? He built massive likability. He earned the respect. and he was able to negotiate like no one, because he was, number one, the persona he puts out there today, it's not how he built his portfolio, right? This is not how he was. Now he is I mean, in terms of business, he's a bully, right? He's a bully. He'll strong arm you, whatever. But to get the deal, he's gonna finesse you. He's gonna, if he wants you to invest, you'll know about it. He's gonna go through these three things. He's gonna build likability. He's gonna build. I mean, this is how we got elected, right? Yeah. He built the likability, whether we personally like him or don't, it doesn't really matter. But he created a base of followers that love him, right? And so he had to listen to what their issues were and talk directly to those issues, earn their respect. They don't care. He never cared about us. We're in Canada. Who cares about what we think about him? The only thing matters is, can he get the win? And then how did he justify being the president without any prior experience? Logic and reason. We will get you jobs. And so he did use those same rules. I mean, the business is business, right?
Yeah, very, very well put. So, Alfonso, another thing, I remember we were talking about this a few weeks ago when we were setting things up for today's call. Negotiations aren't necessarily a short-term process for you, especially with a real estate deal. So kind of give us an idea of what, I'm sure some of them have been very quick, but what have been some of the longer negotiations that you've done with real estate?
With real estate, these past two deals that I closed in October, one was a 12 unit, the other was a 36 unit that were 90% vendor takebacks. Okay. And so if we can, and I want to talk about the 36 unit building.
Sure.
On the market for $900,000. On the market for $900,000, I was able to get it down to $675, 90% vendor takeback, interest only for the first year, no personal guarantees, at 3.5%.
Wow.
And that's so amazing. It's almost like, it's a gift, but it's not that easy. That deal, it took me about a year to put together. From the moment I started to poke my nose in, there's always going to be a discovery call, even if it's through the agent, I want to find out all about the seller. What is their need? What is their need? What is their need? And so sometimes I just need to see the whole thing, go through the full cycle. He had other offers, and I just had to be patient, right? There was two other offers that fell apart because of financing. I knew that was going to happen. I had to be patient and continue to just, hey, I'm still here. I still love your deal. I still love everything about what you're doing. When you're interested, give me a call, right? And then finally I get the call. And then, so how would this look like, right? And so I need to, so there's a lot of work. It's about a year to do that deal. The other one, the 12 unit that in Saskatoon, in a major market, similar structure. Now I use the 36 unit deal, the 36 unit apartment deal to justify why I'm going in with another 90%. Everybody said this is impossible. In fact, in that brokerage, they have my picture in the wall. They're like, this guy is crazy. But that's I saw what their need was, and I actually was hanging around for about a year and a half. I was looking at this deal for about a year and a half, and I went in a few separate times. The second I closed on the 36 unit deal, I went in with this one with the exact same structure, justifying my position based on what I just did, because they were about 3 hours apart. And so this is how some deals, some deals have gone for years, right? And so you can never give up on a deal, or else I would have been in bed.
Do us a favor,
I would be going to bed at 9 p.m.
do us a favor, if you don't mind. Let's look at that 36-unit apartment building. And to the best of your recollection, can you walk us through step by step, in a condensed version, but step by step, that year-long process? So first of all, like, how did you hear about the deal? What did you do first? When, if it was through a realtor, how did you do that? How did you get face-to-face with the seller? Because you're going to have to, the realtor's going to have a conniption at the idea of a 90% VTB. They can't even get their head around it most of the time. How did the process look in that?
Yeah, so that's a really excellent question. So I'm going to start off with, my likability and respect. And so as I go about life, I have a genuine interest in other people. The second we met, we hit it off. I mean, and it's not because I'm trying to do any type of negotiations.
I think alcohol was involved.
Yes, alcohol was involved, but I just like people. I'm interested in people. And I say this all the time. If you want to be someone that, you want to be doing really big transactions, you have to become into this, even if it's like at first it's going to be uncomfortable, but you have to become into a likable person. And the only way to do that is to have a genuine, and this has to be genuine, interest in other people. And so anybody I meet someone in the elevator, I tell them all about what I'm doing, how you're doing. Like, I can meet anybody anywhere. And so this particular realtor, I met him at a networking event in Saskatchewan, and we hit it off, and build that likability. I build the respect through my experience, kind of giving him an example of what I've done in the past. And, then he started to present me deals. And then he came to the table with a few other ones. And then this one was something that I looked at, and I was like, okay, interesting. 900,000, 36-unit building is still a hell of a deal, right? And so, I found out about the seller, their needs. And so
how did you find out about the seller and their needs? Because if you're going through a realtor, they're not supposed to be blabbing about what the sellers need.
Well, it's an honest question. Why are they selling? They're going to say a few things. And, you can take it with a grain of salt because, but I mean, I just want to get a bigger, if an agent does not want to disclose the information to me, then how am I going to be able to structure a deal to make it work? A good agent their first mandate is to service their client, and they need to sell that property. So if I ask, why do they want to sell? They could be truthful or not. But if they're not truthful, then, at some point we're going to find out because the deal's going to fall apart. And so, either they're retiring, they're not happy with the particular investment or the place, the vacancy, the way that's being managed. Lots of, and sometimes by looking at the numbers, you can see, okay, the property is being mismanaged. There's issues here. And it looks like this particular deal looks like there's a lot of pain here, right? Also discovering that the seller has no kids, that's key, right? I mean, if the seller has no kids or offspring, where you would see that if they have a building like a 36-unit building, maybe instead of giving you a seller financing, why not give it to one of their kids or whatever? And sometimes the kids just don't want anything to do with real estate. That's also the case that's also the case in a lot of situations where you have property owners without a proper succession plan, and the kids just don't want any part of real estate because they look at real estate as painful, toilets, trades, time, and getting all the phone calls. And so my strength is in operations. And so even if it's far away, I know how to operate a particular situation. Now, this particular property is 3 hours north of Saskatoon. So I know that already the buyers that you have access to are going to drop, right? And so the longer this is on the market, the harder this is going to be to sell. So it was under contract twice. The deal fell apart. And so finally it comes back, and they said, okay, they're ready. They're ready to look at a particular deal. Now, this is this is kind of like a unicorn where I went in with a full vendor take back. I don't usually go in with a full vendor take back. Somewhere in the deal, I'm going to present that if that's something that will make this deal work. Because if you go in with that, it's going to be an uphill battle. Now, when you go in with a vendor take back, you have to go into it with education. You need to educate the seller, the realtor sometimes, because even the realtors, the two realtors that I was dealing with. So you have the buying realtor, my realtor, and then the selling agent. Both of them that have never done a seller VTB before, have no clue how it works. And so I had to do a little bit of education.
They're really concerned about getting their commission.
Of course.
Exactly.
Which is why, and that is a really great point, Dave. Really great point. What's in it for everyone?
Yeah.
Right? That's how you can achieve really great negotiations. What's in it for them? What's in it for the agent? What's in it for us as buyers? Like, what's in it for everyone? What's in it for the agent? Well, guess what? I'm not asking for 100% vendor take back. I'm only asking for 90, meaning I'm going to put 10% down, and that 10% should satisfy all the legal fees, transaction fees, the selling fees for the seller. So now they know where they're gonna get paid. And so I lead with that. The reason I'm putting 10% down is because I want to make sure that you guys are taken care of. Guards come down. Yeah. Now they're ready to listen, right? Remember, likability, likability and respect. And so I went through a whole education process of how, of all the benefits of doing a vendor take back, all the benefits that the seller would receive in return of doing this transaction. Number one, he gets to defer capital gains. I mean, that's an excellent reason why someone would do this. Who wants to give it to Uncle Sam, right? Who wants to give all that money to Uncle Sam? He gets to defer it for 5 years. That's number one. Number two, what are you going to do with the money? Well, I was thinking about taking the money, putting it into a mutual fund. Well, how's that going to turn out for you? What is going to be the return? How about I give you a return on the money that you're going to take this money, have to pay taxes. Now, whatever's left over, you'd put it into a mutual fund, getting 1 or 2%. How about I give you 3.5, 4, 5% sometimes if the deal allows it. So that's definitely a benefit to the seller. And here's the key. You are now completely relieved of this responsibility. You are free. You can sail into the sunset, right? And I will pay you, this return. And so my strategy is simply, operate it, create a lift, and do a refi and pay out the seller, right? But the seller needs to know there's going to be an end at some point. So as I'm going through these negotiations, now we have the vendor take back. We have the whole entire structure. Now I go and inspect the property. By the way, I still haven't gone to the property. Right? So this is another, people want to see the property before they even put an offer in. Well, you don't even know if you have an offer, right? And so, and by the way, I'm not going to I live in Ottawa. The thing is in Saskatchewan. I'm not going to, go on a flight just to, kick tires, like I want to make sure that I'm going there. There's going to be a deal in place. And so I get there. And so this is why I never start off with lowballing people, right? Because I just want to get in the game, get into the deal, right? And so now I can, we're doing the inspection, and now we can talk about. Now that we've talked about.
So sorry. So at this point, you've got an accepted offer. Is that correct?
Yes. So this an accepted offer. I think it was at 780, which was incredible, right? Well,
this is after it already fallen through with a couple other guys first.
Yes.
A couple of those other offers had fallen through.
Okay. He actually said no. The seller actually said no to 850 because he was selling it for 9. But you see, the 850 guy came in too early, first of all, and he came in like a jerk, right? And as you know, rule number 1, likability, right? So I was already doing my research regarding about whoa. I got a notification there. I was already doing my research on this gentleman, and I knew exactly, kind of how to talk to the agents. And the agents were really turned off. Not even the seller, because the seller was in BC somewhere. But the agents were really turned off on the 850 guy. And then so I came in, and you know what? I still love this deal. I walked through the entire property, but there was some deficiencies. And when I came back, I said, like, look, I feel really bad and I feel horrible, but I still love this deal. Like, I really want to do this deal. But these are the things that are wrong. And this is what it's going to cost. And that's my logic and reason. But I came with that at the very end. And it wasn't like I was looking for that, but that's just the nature of how the deal was. Mm-hmm. And so we ended up at 675, 90% better take back. And then right before I removed all my conditions, I said, I'm also going to need interest only for the first year. And at that point, they've gone too far into the deal. There's deposits. You see, what happens with someone is that, the second you give a deposit, the second you're in a transaction, they've already spent the money in their mind. And so, this is where you have a little bit more leverage. Now, I'm going to say leverage because I don't want you to do this as being a jerk. But sometimes, situations present itself like, there's situations with the roof. There's a leak in a pipe, or there's a foundation issue, whatever it is. I mean, you've already gone too far to just, start over, right? And if you've done the right work with the likability and respect, I think you'll have a deal. As long as you're thinking about what are they going to get out of it.
So, question for you on this particular deal. So, you were dealing through your buying realtor who was dealing through the selling realtor.
Yes.
Who was communicating to the absentee owner who lived in BC for the Saskatchewan property in Hicksville, Saskatchewan. At any point before you made the final offer got accepted, were you able to talk directly with the seller, the owner?
Not this particular deal.
Okay.
Not this. The many deals in the past, I actually encourage it because a lot of the deals that I'm trying to put together, they're very creative. In fact, that's my MO. I like apartment buildings, and I like it to be creative, right? And so, I encourage that sometimes the message gets lost through the agents. So I will actually I had a call 2 days ago with the seller. So the agent brought the seller, and we had a conference call. And again, I'm building my likability. I'm building my respect, my experience in the industry, and then I came with the deal, which this particular deal that I was working on is a 20-unit building, and because of the nature of the beast that we're living in today, and we can talk about how negotiations are going to change during this time, but there's issues with lending and just getting financing altogether, and so that's my logic and reason, because what I want to do is an offer to purchase, a lease option. And so, and we could talk about what that means as well.
or an agreement for sale, right?
Yeah.
But who knows? Anyhow, yeah.
Same thing, like an agreement for sale, offer to purchase, lease option. We can talk about what that means, but that's the type of deal I'm structuring with this 20-unit building, because you know what? We're not going to be able to get the financing. There's a lot of hurdles. And so I need to talk with the seller. The seller needs to know that I'm the person. I'm the person not only to do this, but to be in a position to execute it all the way through.
And I'm hearing something interesting. We're getting back to your 36-unit deal here. Very interesting. Where my ears perked up, all of it was awesome, but where my ears really kind of perked up was the fact that the guy who offered $850 was a jerk. And
that's their words. That's their words, not mine.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. You don't know the guy. You didn't meet him.
Yeah.
Right. But here's where my ears perked up. Really, the ones that killed the deal were the realtors.
Yeah.
Because the owner probably didn't even get to see that offer, or they steered him clear of it. So in actuality, in a certain way, they did the seller a disservice because they were personally turned off by that buyer. So what am I taking from this? I'm taking from this. Don't be a jerk with the realtors.
Well, like I said, likability, respect, logic, and reason.
With the realtors first.
With everyone. Yeah, with everyone.
You got to get them on board first before you even got a crack at the seller.
Yeah, but even like the things that I'm doing are sometimes creative. I need the mortgage broker has to like me to want to do the deals that I'm trying to do, right? Because it's a lot of work, right? And
the mortgage broker had nothing to do with this one.
I'm just saying in other deals, right? Yeah. Like if you have a situation where, the very first thing that I try to build is likability. I want to, in every conversation, I'm trying to build a friend, right? And as a friend, I can get away with more just being a friend, because we're able to talk mano a mano, like let's figure this out, right? Like the deal's not over, but you know what the situation is, there's issues with the roof, or there's issues with the foundation. Like I'm just being honest with you, right? And so I want you to get the commission. I want you to do this deal. So let's make this work.
Yeah. And
so that's why that likability is important, because. And it just, and you're right. If agents are turning down people, or anybody turning down people, but just because they don't like them, it's a human tendency. It's not like, it's just the way it is. We've all done it. We're looking at a vehicle. We just don't like the sales guy. We want, it's almost the salesperson is in the way of us buying this. I wish that person wasn't there so I can buy this thing. Right. And so it's that likability factor. And it's built through listening. And you have to do a really good job during the discovery of the seller, of the needs. And if the seller feels that you're the person, and you've educated and you've done all your work, and you're not in a rush, you will get that deal.
Awesome. So Alfonso, looking at the clock here, my friend, in the whole negotiation, your take on negotiations and the steps, what else do we need to cover? Because I want to open things up for Q&A with the folks that are on the call. I know Denise is biting at the bit to ask a few questions here. I have 4 steps. Is there anything else that we need to go over?
So before you go into these steps, it's important that you remember the last 3, right? Likability, respect, and logic and reason. Okay. But once you step into a deal, and let's talk specifically about, we can talk about 2. We can talk about salesmanship, and we can, in general, and we can talk about real estate. Okay. So 4 steps for real estate. Number 1, you love the deal. Love this deal, right? A lot of people go in there insulting the deal. The seller must fall in love with you as a buyer. And so if you love what they loved in the beginning, there's a reason why you want this deal. Number two, you should have some sort of empathy for the seller, right? Never talk bad about the seller or your prospect. You know, he did a bad job managing it. The place is falling apart. You know, you don't have to do that. They already know they have an ugly baby, right? You don't have to point it out. Number three, it should be known that you are an investor and you make decisions based on logic and reason, not emotion. And number four, no matter where you start, you're always willing to go way up. You're always willing to work something out, right? So even if the number that you start with is a little bit low, you know, it should come with an explanation. Listen, and if you're talking through agents, the information needs to go to the other side. Like, listen, I'm willing to go way up. Like I'm willing to negotiate on this, but this is where I feel comfortable, where I want to start. And this is how I'm going to justify these numbers. Here are my numbers. And this is how you start in the negotiations.
Excellent. Okay, so that's 4 steps there. And then you wanted to talk about salesmanship.
Yeah, so salesmanship in general, number one is the ID period, the identification period. You always want to start off with a discovery period. You want to find out as much as possible about your prospect, the other side, right? Number two is going to be the presentation, your offer. This could be anything. It could be, you know, a proposal for marriage. It could be anything, right? But a presentation should always be, you should never go into a presentation without an invitation from the other side. So you go through your likability, your ID period, your discovery, you're asking a lot of questions, and then you go through your presentation, and then you test the waters a little bit. I call it the trial close, your trial close. And is there any reason why you think this deal is not going to work out? And then they're going to come up with all the reasons, and now you have to, you know, handle your objections. And once you can solve all of these, you ask, you know, really good trial close questions, you know, like, you know, okay, so if I can fix all of these items, is there any reason why you wouldn't present this offer? And, you know, they say no, then that means they've committed themselves to you. Now you go and solve those issues. And when you get to your close, it's pretty simple. You've already done the work. And if by the time you get to your close is no, then you have to go back to ID period. You haven't done the work, right? So there's a lot to do There's a lot to do here. Don't be in a rush.
Excellent.
I'm going to move my phone because it looks like I'm running out of battery, and I don't want to
plug it in before we get cut off here, buddy. All right, you guys, we're going to open up for Q&A here. If you have any questions, Denise, you're not supposed to be taking off. You're the one that's been typing in all the questions. If you have any questions, just type something in the chat box so I can find you and open up your mic, and you can ask your question for El Señor Cuadra.
Plus, I got the gold here.
You got a prize for the person with the best question. You get some hand sanitizer.
This stuff is worth a mint.
It is. All right. So Denise, I'm gonna open you up. You've had some great comments and stuff like that. I'm gonna try to open you up. Unmute. Oh, let me unmute you. There you go.
Oh, Alfonso had a flashing personality there.
Yeah, exactly. All
no,
right.
I was just. Oh.
Go ahead.
No, I was just making the comment. I don't know at what point that you were talking there, because I just said that had you been watching these deals for a long time on the market and they just were not selling, which is why you started in on it, or had you placed an offer early, it got refused, and then you went back at it later because it wasn't selling?
Yeah, so there's been many situations in the past where I've put in offers and, it was just not the offer they were looking for. And there's no problem. Everybody's got the right to say no. And we were just able to negotiate afterwards, right? I'm always open. If I just did a recent deal, 18 units, and I put in my offer, 90% vendor take back, and the seller came back as, they're not ready right now. And you know what? When you're ready, I'm here.
Yeah. And the 90% vendor take back, that's assuming that the property is free and clear at this point, right?
Yes, yes. So this is like during your discovery period, you're going to find out, how much debt is on the property, why they want to sell, what's the need, how can you help them, what's the management like, where are they even physically there or around this property. There's a lot of issues. Either they're absent, they're far away. This has become a headache. Maybe they're mom and pop owners where they just like, it's a family business, and they're just like, they've had it, they don't want anything to do with it, and this is your opportunity. So this is during the discovery period. We get to find out all the reasons why they want to sell, what is their situation, and how can we put a deal together. If they have financing, well, you can go back and say, you know what, you can assume the financing that they have, which is easier than going through a whole mortgage application. And then the difference could be, the vendor take back.
It's, you said something there and I was just going to comment on it. Kind of thought went in and kind of went right out the other side. There's something that you said here. What was it? It'll come back to me right now. It just, one of the things that I do, I don't know if you do or not, but I, whenever I can, I obtain a purview report. So that gives me the first indication right there as to what financing they have on the property. And the purview report is a report you can only get from a mortgage agent.
Yeah.
So when you've got relationships with mortgage agents that you can get that, then that's great.
And goes back to my point, likability, right? Likability will go a long way. If someone likes you, they're willing to go above and beyond what their responsibilities are, and they'll help you because they will gain something out of it as well. For a lot of these apartment buildings, it's not unusual to ask how much debt is on it, because a lot of the times commercial mortgages are very expensive to break. There's big penalties, and so a lot of the times the best thing to do is to assume the existing mortgage versus breaking the mortgage and having to place a new financing on it. So it's not unusual to ask. It's not like, like how much debt is on the property. If they say, well, I'm not going to tell you, well, then I already can see that there's going to be some education needed because these agents may not be experienced in apartment buildings.
Which is why with the other report, that's where I get my answer first of all anyways. So if they're not willing to give it to you, I already have that.
Yeah, I can get it. I mean, yeah.
That report is such a great negotiating skills. Also, when you know exactly how much they still have left or how much of big of a mortgage that they have on there. So you
how many mortgages?
Yes, exactly. How many mortgages? That's another one. It's interesting because we're looking right now at a multifamily. And it was a question of, do we put in the offer now? They're asking a little too much for what the rents are. And it's just a question, do we wait till now it's on the public forum as opposed to a private listing? And we opted to just wait a little bit and see if anybody else is going to test the market first, because they're asking a little high for it right now. So again, it's just a strategy we're using right now, but it was kind of like toss up. What do we do right now? Do we go in with an offer and then start the negotiation? But I think our very first offer might have been refused. And we could have said, hey, if you're interested, come back. But we opted to just wait to see if any offers are being placed.
Yeah, so it's
and then go in.
Like, never be shy of putting in an offer. That's what I always tell people, put in your offer, like put it in, right? There's like the initial offer will never be the actual selling price at the end if you do your job right? Most people want to go in with the lowest possible offer at first. And, maybe the deal is not ready for that at that point. It's only after you've done your inspection, you've walked through the property, then you can see, okay, whether or not the offer that you had in the first place is a justified offer. And so there's a lot of, it takes a lot of time. Most of the time people are in such a rush, they get so excited. And here's the key: whoever needs the deal the most will overpay or lose in a seller's case.
All right, very good. So Claude, we're going to open you up here, my friend. We got to give everybody a chance here. And then Sergio.
Thank you, Denise. Nice haircut.
Alfonso or Denise, on that same topic, Alfonso, like I sold a building back in, I think it was 2011, and we assumed, or the buyers assumed the mortgage, and we did a VTB for a small portion as well, 100, 200,000, I think it was. Now, what I didn't find out till after was one of the first ones I had sold, or one of the few that I sold, that we were still guarantee on that assumable mortgage that they had as well, though. And I'm not sure if that's common knowledge. It certainly wasn't for me at the time.
Yeah, so it just depends on the lender, and you want to make sure you read the fine print. There's two parts to this. Number one, if you have a good relationship with the seller, that could be okay depending on your relationship. But
right.
If you want to, of course, you're the one with the gold, so you hold you ultimately you make the rules. And so you could demand the lender to completely release you, and now the seller needs to be able to completely be approved for that particular loan. But there is a way to completely wash your hands on an assumption, if it's possible and if it's feasible. But sometimes, if in a negotiation, for you needed to sell this property, can I ask if it turned out okay? So it turned out well. So again, you still have the asset, right? It's not like it's a negotiation that you're buying and selling something that it's not tangible,
right?
And so you still have control of the asset in some way because you have your interests are represented in the asset.
Yeah, I guess in our case, was the first time I did sell. And the VTB was for 2 years. The mortgage wasn't renewing for 2 years so that it could all line up. So just not knowing that we were still on the hook for 2 years. I mean, we were either way having the VTB, but it was just, having to pay off that mortgage as well. If it did go south was kind of new information that we weren't aware of at the time.
But you still have control of the asset.
For sure. Yeah.
So it's a little bit different. But now, was it a broker or were you dealing directly with the institution?
With a broker.
Yeah, so I think the broker dropped the ball on this one.
Agreed.
They should have let you know, and like there's nothing wrong with that, but they should have let you know that you're on the hook.
Yeah, we never realized it until we went and signed the legal documents, and it was like, okay.
But now it's too late.
Yeah, exactly. It was a little nerve-wracking for 2 years. Yeah, it was a little nerve-wracking for 2 years, but we got through it all, so it's been several years now. So all good.
Thanks for sharing, Claude. Appreciate it. We got another question. I'm going to open things up for Sergio. Where is Sergio? I'll find you in a second, buddy. Hold on. I think.
Good questions.
Yeah, good questions, you guys. There he is. Sergio, you're unmuted, my friend. Go ahead.
Hi, thanks, Dave, and thanks, Alfonso. That was amazing. Just want to ask you regarding your experience with assuming the seller's mortgage, okay? Number one, this is entirely new to me. So number one, I don't know if would this apply only for commercial deals or also residentials?
Yeah. So I'll answer that question first. It can apply to both, but more common in commercial residential mortgages because the penalty to break those mortgages is so significant.
Okay, thanks. And then, so what's your experience in what type of situations do you bring this up, and how do you pitch it? What are the benefits or disadvantages for a seller for you to assume the mortgage?
Well, the first benefit is that they don't have to pay the penalty, right? I was looking at this deal out east. It was a 200-unit apartment complex. $13 million, $9 or $8 million assumable mortgage. This was a few years ago, so I don't remember the details exactly. But to break that particular mortgage, it would cost the seller about $800,000.
Okay.
So there's definitely a benefit of me coming to the table and educating someone and telling, listen, you don't have to pay that $800,000. How about you give me some of that $800,000 in the purchase price, and I'll assume your deal. So that's the number one benefit of assuming a commercial mortgage. I would say that would be probably the main reason why someone would do this. Two, they get to sell the property, right? So if someone's truly motivated in selling the property, and if someone comes along and is able to educate and use logic and reason, then the seller gets what they ultimately want, is to sell the property.
Okay. So Alfonso, but I guess the seller needs to approve, right? And the seller needs to qualify you from scratch, as if it's
the lender will qualify you.
Sorry.
Once you've structured a deal like this, now you get in contact with the lender, whoever it could be, an institution, a bank, what have you, CMHC, and now they have to approve you as the buyer.
So you do have to qualify, Sergio.
Yes, you do have to qualify.
The lender's qualification criteria is, you have to meet that.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Good questions, you guys. Alfonso, my friend, time flies when we're having fun. Thank you very, very much for sharing your experience, your wisdom, your stories with us. Really appreciate it. Fantastic lessons here. If people want to find out more and connect with you, Mr. Alfonso Cuadra, what should they do?
Go to Google, type in Alfonso Cuadra, and you can find me. I'm everywhere. I'm everywhere. So follow me. Go to my YouTube channel. I do daily videos, especially nowadays. I'm getting more used to this online forms.
I see you get more used to the TikTok thing too, for crying out loud.
Yes. You can follow my
too much fun with that.
Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. Subscribe to my channel, Alfonso Cuadra. And I'm here to add value. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I just want to bring you value and share my experience with everyone.
Awesome, my friend. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, as always. And you guys, everybody that's on here live today, thank you very much for zooming in with us.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to comment down below. Hey, let us know. What do you want to watch in the next video? What do you want to see? What do you want to see? Make sure to subscribe. Hit the bell to be notified the next time we're doing a video. Like or dislike. We don't care.